what the UN entities are doing here in Jamaica. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Good morning to you all. Pleasure to be here. Ministers, permanent secretaries, colleagues from the UN, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to you all. In the wake of Hurricane Melissa's unprecedented impact, the United Nations has stood firmly with the government and people of Jamaica. Today, we mark another important milestone in our collective response, and I'm therefore pleased to confirm the approval of an extra $4 million from the United Nations Central Emergency Response Fund, CERF, to accelerate life-saving humanitarian activities across the hardest-hit parishes. This $4 million allocation is a clear demonstration of the global solidarity with Jamaica at a time when the needs are immense. The fund exists precisely for these moments. It is the UN's Global Emergency Fund designed to enable rapid, impartial, and targeted assistance when crises strike. It pulls contributions from member states, the private sector, and individuals, allowing the United Nations to immediately deploy resources that save lives in these critical first days. Let me, at this juncture, also acknowledge the leadership of the government of Jamaica, especially the Most Honorable Prime Minister, the aligned ministries that we've been working with, ODPEM under Commander Gale, the Jamaican Defense Forces, local authorities, and all first responders. Your tireless work in the face of crisis has been nothing but short of extraordinary. Let me also acknowledge the work that we've been doing very closely with our regional colleagues from CDEMA, led by Elizabeth Riley. Coordination, as you know, has been a critical part of the whole effort, and CDEMA, working very closely with ODPEM and the United Nations, have benefited from this close collaboration. I also wish to extend appreciation to our partners, including our bilateral donors who have provided the financial resources, civil society, the private sector, and of course the media. And a special recognition goes on to all of you who have played a part in this role. Hurricane Melissa's devastation has been profound and far-reaching, and communities across Jamaica have endured the loss of lives, livelihoods, and essential services. From the very onset, the United Nations have been working very closely with the national authorities to meet urgent needs. Today,
with supporting Jamaican businesses. Thereafter, there's a further commitment of 7 billion Jamaican dollars, which will assist in the overall rebuilding of particular sectors, supply chains, and other economic actors. And I'll take you quickly through that. So the first, immediately after the storm, the Development Bank of Jamaica engaged in a number of consultations. Consultations with our existing beneficiaries on loan and credit facilities. We had engagements with our AFI partners, the banks in Jamaica, microfinance institutions. We also extended our outreach and data gathering to different business associations. We started with the Small Business Association of Jamaica, Exporters Association. We also spoke to Chamber of Commerce and a number of other key partners in explaining to us what their memberships were facing in terms of the immediate effects after the storm. What we did after that was simply to understand where are the gaps in terms of access to finance, and where are the gaps in our ability to service support businesses that have a range of impact, from those that are immediately in the path of the storm and those that have indirect exposure to the storm based on the disruption of supply chains, etc. Thereafter, we developed a comprehensive plan connecting all of these complex gaps. Issues around eligibility, state of recovery, time to normalcy, a very complex, comprehensive look was taken. And while this initial launch does not adequately address every possible permutation or issue that could be faced by a business, we feel that it's robust enough to start, and we will evolve as we go along. We continue to also engage our ministerial partners who have been tremendous in helping us to set up this framework. The ministry, our ministry, Ministry of Economic Growth, first of all. Secondly, supported by the Ministry of Industry. And third, Ministry of Agriculture. And fourth, Ministry of Finance. And over the last 3 weeks, as I said, we were all working together in a collaborative way to see how best this product could be rolled out in a way that's meaningful and actually creates long-term sustainability for recovery. Now, the framework has 3 distinct product windows. The first, we have coined the name the refinance window. These are businesses that might have been indirectly affected, which already have credit facilities, and what we've done is to look at how we can engage in an assessment of terms, relax certain issues that can allow them to continue and have some breathing space. The second is what we refer to as the reboot window. And this is also what we have referenced as a light touch. You may have just some short-term needs, you have inventory to be replaced, you have some infrastructure damage that's not material to your ongoing operations, but you need to get back to where you were pre-storm. And the most important, and there are lots of issues around this particular window, which is the rebuild window, which is a longer phase engagement. And these are businesses that have pretty much been totally disrupted. So if you put things in context, you think of what happened during the pandemic. Business activity was disrupted, but infrastructure remained. It was the movement of people that was primarily the impact on what was happening in terms of servicing. In this particular situation, it's far worse. The complexity includes infrastructure as well as disruption to business. So we have to have a long-term plan in terms of how do we support resilience and to make sure that we're in a position to ensure that you're not going to be perfectly suited to withstand any catastrophe, but your ability to recover and reduce the impact going forward is what we're focused on in terms of this particular program. So each beneficiary will have, as it's displayed on the screen, between up to 20 to 50 million Jamaican dollars of access to each of these particular windows. And this will be advised through our partners, the AFIs, the MFIs, and we will then work with them in making sure that these terms are understood to the eligible candidates, and we'll work in terms of making sure they're timely and serviced. The next I'd like to share with you is where focus lies in terms of sectors. Through our consultations, we had a very simple grouping to at least get the program started, because we did not want perfection to be the reason why we did not start with this rollout. So we have 4 clear verticals, and the first is agriculture. As we know, St. Elizabeth, our breadbasket, was severely impacted. So we've been working with the Ministry of Agriculture to make sure that we're working on their priorities in terms of what those businesses need in terms of support to regain good footing and to extend their ability to regain meaningful economic engagement. The second, manufacturing. And manufacturing is a two-sided situation, because where you have agro-processors who have had losses to their main inputs locally, they may have been operating in another parish that wasn't affected immediately by the storm. So we have to engage in ways to facilitate their credit needs in terms of making sure that this disruption allows them to continue in a meaningful way. Distribution, which covers retail and wholesale. We've seen lots of small micro businesses affected in this space. And again, we want to be very targeted and very focused on making sure that these windows support them in their capacity to restore normalcy. Tourism, critical. Tourism has a number of areas that we have identified that we have immediate targeted responses for. People in the craft sector, those that are in attractions, and any other adjacent part of what we constitute as tourism and hospitality. We have a product that we've designed for you, and we'll be announcing more details as we go along. So what is also important is to understand why this matters. Why now, why this program, and why we feel so confident that this is one of many interventions that we're going to announce to the nation in terms of our response. The important thing to note is that we are committed to finding the best solution, all things considered, to make access to credit facilities easy, frictionless, and supported by our partners in the financial sector. The second is that we are also going to roll a grant program into our funding needs. And how this grant program is going to work is that we want to encourage innovation. We want to encourage things that can bring greater levels of resilience. There's going to be a lot of innovation because we've seen anywhere in the world where you have major impacts and fallout like this, you find that there are entrepreneurs who see an opportunity to do things better than what they were doing before. And we want to be able to give that support. They shouldn't have to pay or be penalized for innovation. So we want to make sure there's a grant element to that. So that will be wrapped in some of our offerings as we go forward. But the third and probably the most important in a post-climate event like this is where collateral has been impacted. Buildings that would be on offer for collateral, other sorts of assets are no longer available. And what we believe is important as a development bank is to use our ability to intervene by offering credit collateral support. And this collateral support will be wrapped into all these new facilities, up to 80%.
Chat LLM is an all-in-one platform for you to use the best AI models out there. You can seamlessly switch between different models, plus you can use the best image generators out there and the best video generators out there, all in one integrated platform. Plus, if you're coding something, they have a really useful artifacts feature so that you can preview your generation side by side. Plus, they have a deep agent feature which can do really complex tasks all autonomously, like creating PowerPoints, websites, and research reports. It's going to supercharge your productivity. You can access all.
We're also going to be informed by an ongoing engagement weekly with members of the public, the business community, our colleagues in other ministries, and all of the other economic, social, and important actors in a recovery like the one that we're faced with. So in closing, let me again say thank you to all the Jamaicans who have been part of this process. This was not an easy exercise. This was not an easy framework to produce, but it's because of this commitment that we as Jamaicans are committed to being what we are, resilient and determined to win at every level. And as your partner, through the Development Bank of Jamaica and the Government of Jamaica, we're here listening and we'll continue to make a difference. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lowe, and thank you to the DBJ team, as you see, there are solutions being found across the entire government. We have some of the best public servants you'll find anywhere in the world, and they're working really hard to support across the many different areas. And you heard all of these new facilities that we will have. Please reach out to the DBJ or to your AFI, which is your bank that you usually deal with, and we will ensure that all who need the assistance are able to get assistance in getting back on their feet. Getting the business sector up is very important, and there's some other things happening, and Minister Aubin Hill is leading on that, and I'll also get him to come and update you on some of the work he too is doing to get our small businesses back on their feet. We now have something that a lot of Jamaicans are talking about. When you look on social media, you hear about it all the time, the new housing solutions. And so this is being led by the NHT, and the government is very clear on this. Anything we're doing, we're going to use the experts to evaluate. And so in terms of short-term housing, we have an NHT with significant expertise in the housing market. And so in determining what solutions we do, we've left it to the NHT. And so this morning, we're so happy to have the NHT with us, and it's going to be Dwayne Berbick, who is going to be doing the presentation this morning on the housing solutions, not temporary housing solutions, but the housing solutions that we have coming into the island. And so please welcome Dwayne Berbick from the National Housing Trust to tell you more about this.
Thank you very much, Minister Dixon, and a pleasant morning, ladies and gentlemen. A few weeks ago, Prime Minister Holness would have indicated that that's just nerves, that's okay. The NHT would be leading a set of initiatives that would be supporting Jamaicans at this particular time. They include a rapid housing deployment initiative, which looks at semi-permanent housing units that can get our Jamaicans within shelter in a medium-term framework, and over long-term would amend and lend themselves to some amount of flexibility as well for these recipients to build out that. In addition to that, we've also given consideration to a set of initiatives that we believe will give us a more short-term impact in terms of addressing the housing needs of Jamaicans at this time. And I'll take you through them. They include our peril insurance arrangements that we have for our existing mortgages, and also looking at loan and grant options as well that the NHT has implemented, not just for NHT mortgages now, but we've lent some amount of flexibility in terms of the eligibility criteria and in terms of who qualifies for these benefits. So we're extending it beyond just the NHT mortgager to look at homeowners in general, and as I'll share a little bit later, to look as well at immediate family members who may not be directly impacted, but they are in a position to lend some support to family members who are in the more heavily impacted areas. So I'll start with the Rapid Deployment Housing Initiative, and the NHT is now in the process of procuring the first 2,500 of what is, in its first instance, 5,000 semi-permanent housing units that we have done quite a bit of research in terms of looking at what is available in the market and what satisfies some of our technical specifications as it relates to building codes and construction, and also what satisfies requirements as it relates to safety and ability to withstand certain weather phenomena. And we landed on an expanded polystyrene EPS prefab unit, and it lends itself for rapid on-site assembly. So that was one of the key considerations that we looked at. And it includes a steel frame, and it's supported by insulated panels, which nice way of saying they allow for cooling, so the units do not become excessively hot, and they're able to withstand certain degrees of weather resistance as it relates to earthquakes and, of course, hurricanes. Affordability, again, a key factor in terms of what we looked at in determining these units. So you'll see on our screen a floor plan of what it looks like. This first 2,500 that we're getting, they are 2-bedroom units, and they have supporting that bathrooms, kitchen, and living area. They're approximately 4,000 square feet, and you can see they are supported with windows. 400 square feet. I thought that's what I said. 400 square feet. And they have supporting windows, of course, for additional ventilation to support the cooling panels that they are already insulated with. And 2 metal doors, pre-wired, so facilitates easy installation, not much that is required thereafter for electrical support. The plugs and supporting electrical infrastructure, that's already there. And of course, I did indicate that they meet some of the technical specifications relating to earthquakes, fires, hurricanes, and of course, heat resistance. The NHT in this first phase of the Rapid Housing Deployment Initiative, we're looking at setting up these units on lands owned by the NHT. So our construction and development team, we're currently assessing the status of lands, especially in the St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover areas, that belt. And we're looking at where we had plans for housing development, and there may already exist some amount of supporting infrastructure for sewage, for water already, to see how quickly we can finish that infrastructure and have those units set up, and then look at other lands that the NHT has and see how we can also roll out a program to put in the supporting infrastructure on those lands. So the NHT will be charged with making sure that the concrete foundations are in place, so installation is easier for the customer once they have acquired the unit. And I should point out that we're not just restricting this program to the lands that the NHT currently has, but we're also looking at acquiring additional lands in areas in that belt that can support us getting housing needs to our contributors. And I'll dare say it's not just the contributors of the NHT that would benefit from this initiative. While we will be able to sell some to individuals who satisfy our regular criteria, and I should say we are even looking at adjusting that criteria as well based on need, but we are also collaborating and partnering with other government agencies, especially those who are involved in social housing initiatives, to ensure that some of the units get to those agencies and get directly into the hands of the individuals who are in need. For our peril insurance arrangements, I'll share quickly on that the NHT's monthly mortgage payment, so the peril insurance arrangement extends to individuals who service their mortgage on a monthly basis with the NHT. So that monthly mortgage payment is not just principal and the interest that is paid, but we also have factored into that monthly payment as well life insurance and peril insurance. So in the event of a disaster, there is coverage for individuals to make a claim and to get back on their feet as quickly as possible. So we have in our portfolio just about approximately 130,000 mortgagors. So if there are any individuals who service their mortgage with the NHT and are impacted, at this time they're able to put in a peril insurance claim. So we ask that you, of course, document the damage and document it properly. Take photographs before, after, if you have them, during, if you so happen to have the state of mind to have recorded some of the damage while it was taking place, and of course to get as well an estimate of what it will take to repair the unit and bring it back to its rightful habitable state. The supporting information in terms of other documents that would be required, that's on our website, nht.gov.jm. But the main thing I want to stress is that the documentation of the damage will be a key part. So when our assessors come, They are looking to match what they see on the ground with what you have put forward in your claim. And those claims are to be submitted by January 15, 2026. And I know there are some concerns about that timeline, but I should point out that the insurance coverage notes that claims, in fact, should be made within 45 days, I believe, after a disaster has happened, which would have brought us to December 12th. But the NHT did some negotiations with our insurers, and we got a 30-day extension. So now we're at the January 15, 2026 submission deadline. We are mindful, however, that some individuals are not back to any sense of normalcy just yet. And so we have mobilized our team. We have an NHT mobile unit that is now going out into our communities, into these affected areas, and are bringing the services directly to the people who are affected. So if you're not able to have internet or electricity and have difficulty reaching an NHT branch office to put in an application, we're happy to say we're bringing the service to you. We've optimized our mobile unit, which is a fancy way of saying we got a Starlink device and we put it in, and so we have good internet coverage when we go out there, not just for our team on the bus, but we are able to, lend some service to the people in the areas as well, that you can log in and let someone know that you're all right and while you're doing business with us. So the deadline to remember, January 15, 2026 for those claims. More information on our website. Visit an NHT branch office or look out for our mobile unit, which will be out on the road. I'll share a little on our hurricane relief loan, which is a special loan facility the NHT is making available to individuals who have been impacted by Hurricane Melissa. And it's a loan amount of $3.5 million that we're making available at an interest rate of 2%. And the loan tenure is up to 20 years or age 70 to repay, whichever comes first. One of the special things about this hurricane relief loan is that we're not just restricting it to the homeowners and the individuals who had their properties damaged. Given that incomes have also been affected in these areas, we have extended this facility to immediate family members, so children, siblings, parents wanting to help children. A wide cross-section of individuals can make an application for this loan facility on behalf of someone in a property that is affected. And that would not cause any variation in the terms that the loan allows. It's the same terms that would obtain as it relates to interest rate and time to repay. One of the other special things about this loan facility is that we're giving consideration to not just the immediate repair of the property, but how the homeowner may want to improve resilience. We hear the stories, the hurricanes will be more frequent and will be more intense. So if in preparation, let's say a homeowner wants to move from timber roofing and convert that to slab roofing, as part of the repair process, the NHT will allow the loan facility to go towards that as well. And another special thing, I know I said there are many special things about it, but the NHT is also giving a 6-month moratorium on this loan facility once it's processed, which means that you would not be making any loan payments in the first 6 months after the first disbursement of the loan has taken place. We have as well our disaster relief grant, which is a grant of $500,000 the NHT is making available per collateral, which means per house damaged. And that, again, we're demonstrating flexibility. It doesn't have to be the owner of the house that can apply for this. Immediate family members, again, can apply. And on that note of flexibility, we are also not just looking at homeowners in terms of those who are active mortgagors or contributors to the NHT. We do understand that quite a bit of our pensioners have been affected at this time as well. And so our pensioners are able to apply directly for this grant of $500,000 if they can. If they can't, and there's someone in the family who is a contributor, even if they're not living in the household, they can put in an application on their behalf. And it's $500,000 per collateral, so per property that is damaged. Some of the requirements for this relief grant include, again, much like our peril insurance claim, you must demonstrate that the property has been truly damaged from the hurricane. And so we want to see photographs, again, and estimates of repairs that have been received. And finally, I want to touch on the moratorium that the NHT is providing to our mortgagers at this time. So in the 7 most affected parishes, and that belt stretches from Manchester all the way around to St. Anne, once you are a mortgager in that parish, the NHT is giving you a 6-month break in those mortgage payments. Usually a moratorium just covers the principal, and things like interest and insurance will continue to accrue. The NHT this time around is putting a break on all components of the mortgage. So principal, interest, life insurance, and peril insurance. So no payments for all our mortgagors between November 1 and April next year. So first mortgage payment will be due May 1. And I'll dare say, if May 1 comes and you're still not yet ready or in a position to start making those payments, we will extend that moratorium where necessary. For the individuals who are homeowners in other parishes, the other 7 parishes, if you too have had damage as a result of the hurricane, we are also providing moratorium. Those, though, are on a case-by-case basis. So individuals may put in an application to the NHT. You can visit our website. We've curated a space there, nht.gov.jm/recover, where you can find all the application forms. You can find the checklist of documents required. And we also have some frequently asked questions there as well that will support you in making your application. Thank you.
There is applause in the room, and they don't like to applaud in this room. But I think based on the DBJ presentation and the NHT presentation, we need to applaud. And for me, I'd like to note that both DBJ and NHT fall under the Prime Minister's portfolios. And so he has been working with both of these entities to get to some solutions that Jamaicans can feel good about. And I think everybody's going to feel good when you hear of the facilities, the billions of dollars that are being made available to our businesses that need to get back up on their feet. And when you hear the moratorium, if you're in certain parishes, you don't have to pay your mortgage because NHT is going to be putting in place this moratorium. In addition to that, there are the grants. There is the loan facility. And remember, the Prime Minister keeps talking about resilience. And so if you want to make your home more resilient and you're an NHT contributor, you have a facility now where you can get a loan at 2%. That's unheard of. That's basically 0%, given where inflation is. And so please take advantage of this. Please tell everybody, all those who are saying nothing's happening. That's not true. There's a lot of work happening, but the work had to be done in a very systematic way because it had to pass scrutiny. Those 2,500 homes that are coming in, a lot of work had to be done to identify who was best in the market. There are many players who came forward and said, we could provide, but NHT had to do the work to verify that these were going to be top quality solutions that Jamaicans would want. And you hear 400 square feet, and those are going to have the 2 bedrooms and the bathroom and the kitchen. But knowing our Jamaicans, Dwayne, you spoke it into being, they'll become 4,000 square feet very, very shortly. And we know Jamaicans like to build. And so these are great opportunities. And we now open up to questions from the media. Antoinette, Who do we have first? Is it okay? Good. Go ahead. Go ahead. Good morning.
Minister, how are you doing? All right, so
Let me try to take notes.
all right, so first of all, I understand how busy the Prime Minister is. Clearly, he can't visit everywhere, but he has visited some areas. Can you explain why it took the PM 2 weeks to visit the worst affected communities in eastern Westmoreland, and then seemingly only because a bunch of Caribbean prime ministers were visiting? Second question, Commander Gale speaking at the PAAC last week when asked about relief work and how MPs didn't know when relief teams would be visiting their constituencies, explained the process and said what happens is that they contact the parish disaster coordinators before going in. Can you explain why relief teams wouldn't be notifying, not just notifying the relevant MPs, but also having them as an integral part of their relief team? And why is the relief effort seemingly so centralized and not community-based? 3 opposition leaders said yesterday at a presser that the opposition hasn't been invited to sit on any committees dealing with the relief work. Can you say if this is so? If it's not true, can you say what committees they've been invited to be on? And if it is true, why is it that that is the case? And fourthly, at this point, it seems clear the government doesn't have any intention of convening an independent oversight committee, despite your previous assurances at previous press briefings. Can you say why that is? And for clarity, the real-time audit being done by the Auditor General, very, very important, but can't be a substitute for that. Mm-hmm. And in relation to your own portfolio, Minister, obviously very important to get the schools back, but we've been getting complaints that some residents, especially in Westmoreland, feel they're being pressured. Got a report yesterday that teachers have been visiting and pressuring people to leave, and they feel when they don't feel they have somewhere safe to go to. Yeah. I'll stop there.
All right. Thank you very much. That East Westmoreland question was the same exact question I got in the Senate on Friday by one of the opposition members. They said the same thing. Why didn't the Prime Minister go to East Westmoreland? Why it took him so long to go there? And I had to show in the Senate a video of the Prime Minister in Westmoreland 48 hours after the hurricane. So I'll do that one. And I know Minister Mackenzie is going to take some other ones. The opposition being on any committee, just noting that the Disaster Risk Council has the opposition on that. That is one. In terms of the new initiatives, I have said time and again that Cabinet is looking at using the national.
Ooh, what's that? One of those cables?
Oh, it's acai. It's from Brazil.
Asahi.
You're kidding, right? It's acai.
We have 2 representatives from the opposition. There is Senator Lambert Brown, and there is also Anthony Hilton on that committee that also has the church and the private sector on there, and academia and other trade unions are also there. So that is what we are looking at, and I will confirm once we have a final submission in Cabinet on the disaster, on the new committee, NARA, and how that committee will be overseen. Once that is done, I will come back here and give you the final decision that has been taken. But no final decision has been taken, and we believe very much in the oversight element, that it has to go outside of government. I think the others were for you, Minister Mackenzie.
Yeah, just first of all, I think you answered the question about the...
Yes. Yeah. So I'm going to something else. Okay.
Well, in relation to the question of the Prime Minister taking 2 weeks to visit the areas, the Prime Minister did yesterday explain that Jamaica don't have the luxury of a lot of helicopters. The Prime Minister did within less than 48 hours, visited all the parishes that were affected. So the Prime Minister did, in fact, visited all the parishes that were affected within the first 48 hours, but a more extensive tour was done in Westmoreland because Westmoreland was the area that the hurricane entered the island. And what the Prime Minister did by taking the team of CARICOM leaders was something good, because the Prime Minister could have gone to St. Elizabeth, he could have gone to Hanover, but we went to Westmoreland. And no one should try to put anything, any motive at all whatsoever with where the Prime Minister have visited. Okay, the Prime Minister have visited all of the affected areas. In regards to the opposition's claim, the committee that was established is a subcommittee of cabinet. So you have to be a member of the subcommittee of cabinet to sit on that subcommittee. So this argument about not sitting on relief committees, the minister, my colleague have just outlined that based on the structure of the National Disaster Response Committee, the Prime Minister is the chairman, I am the deputy chairman, the leader of the opposition is a member of that committee. We do have meetings, and I recall having several meetings during burial that we invited the opposition spokesperson on local government. I don't want the impression to be given that the government is bypassing the opposition. There's a committee that was established in Parliament. The opposition refused to sit on that committee. The Prime Minister outlined the steps that we are taking to have an inclusive Jamaica in the process. We're just getting out of the hurricane. It is going to take some time to put the structures in place. And I would urge the media and other Jamaicans to respect the fact that the government has been working and things will come around. Everything can happen on the same day.
All right, in terms of schools, that is a concern, obviously, in terms of them being used as shelters. But we obviously have to always be on the side of compassion. There are people who don't have anywhere to be. I don't think anyone will wake up and say, I want to be in a shelter. And so we understand that. And so the last week when the Prime Minister was here, he said that he had asked that the shelters be decommissioned. But that has to be done while we find alternative spaces for those individuals. So once Minister Mackenzie and Minister Purnell Charles say that they have a new facility for those individuals, they will be moved. And so as a Minister of Education, obviously we are usually saying to them, remember, you need to do this. You have to move very quickly because you want to get schools back. But we understand that there are people that need to still be facilitated in those shelters, and so we're continuing to maintain that. I think those were all the questions, Antoinette. Next one.
Good morning. Yep.
The question as to why the relief teams aren't engaging with the MPs was answered.
Oh, okay. Commando? Relief teams, MPs, do you have a standard around the relief teams engaging? Okay, so he's dealing with the parish teams.
The system that exists does not allow the ADPEM to interact with the political directorate. In every parish, there's a parish development committee which is chaired by the mayors of each parish. The parish disaster coordinators work closely with the ADPEM, and everything that is done is filtered through the parish development committee. We are all members of parliament. In every parish is a part of those committees. And the ADPEM should not be interacting with the political directorate so anybody can accuse the organization of being political. So the organization deals directly with the structure that exists And that is what has been done for years, and we will continue to do so.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Minister Mackenzie.
Testing. There we go. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning and welcome back.
Nationwide news here. Question to Minister Vaz. Can you give any updates on the resumption of the rural school bus program, specifically in Hanover? You know, one of the MPs in Hanover, the Western Hanover's MP, was asking for a resumption of the service.
Is that the school bus program that was opposed? Same one? Okay. All right. Just checking.
So that question was raised to me in Parliament yesterday by the Member of Parliament for Hanover, for which I passed it on, and I received a response this morning to indicate that the Hanover school bus has been reactivated. It operated yesterday and it operated this morning. So I'll be passing that information on to the Member of Parliament. I have asked them to give me exactly how many school buses were rolled out in Hanover this morning, and I'm awaiting that answer. I'm just checking to see whether it has come in as yet. But to say that the school buses are operating in all parishes where schools are open and road access is available. The only places that are not is the areas that schools are still being used as shelters, and road access for the size buses make it unsafe to travel.
And an update on the fares for the students?
Suspended until December.
So 0.
So we had originally indicated that the fare structure would start November 1st. Hurricane hit October the 28th, and so we have moved that forward to December. We'll reassess it in January, but obviously it's not only the worst affected parishes that were affected. The entire country has been affected, and of course people's lives and livelihoods have been affected in different ways, but in education, as you would know, is very important, and therefore we have to facilitate and accommodate the children to be able to continue to go to school even in times of adversity. Hanover is rolling.
Thank you, Minister. Oh, there's more.
Yeah, my second question would be to Commander Gale. In terms of the communities that were marooned, I know we've received an update on how they are now in terms of the status, but in terms of the people that are in those communities, now that they are no longer cut off as they once were, how is the recovery efforts going on in those places?
Our recovery efforts are ongoing right across all sectors. In terms of all communities, there's no special treatment towards those particular communities. The communities which remain flooded, there is some work ongoing from the Jamaica Fire Brigade and the JDF teams to treat with the water situations there, and in terms of the other environmental matters pertinent to the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
And in terms of the communities like Content or places in Hanover that have rising water levels, what's the response like there?
Well, there's nothing we can physically do about the rising waters. What is occurring now, I can tell you, is that right across all which are flooded, the waters have been gradually receding. So we're watching that as it goes down. But in terms of vector control mechanisms, those are being put in place in those communities.
All right, thank you. All right.
Good morning, everyone. Zara Burton, 18 Degrees North. There were 8 presenters, so I do have questions for 4 of the presenters. The first set of batch of questions is for ODPIM, Commander Gale. You mentioned that there were 16 people missing. I want to understand, I brought this up the last time, but why it is that ever so often we get a JCF message on Twitter about somebody missing, and yet we can't get a list of missing in this instance. 2, is it 360,000 people affected like you've said in the past, or is it 600-something thousand people affected in the past on the website of ODPIM right now that need aid? and the Prime Minister had said 900,000. So I wanted to clarify some of those figures in terms of how many people are we trying to reach systematically for aid distribution. Also, are you delivering aid on the weekends? And then 4 for you, how much has been deposited in the ODPEM accounts now? How much has been spent on aid? How much are you in control of as the head of ODPEM? Who controls the amount of funds that has been deposited in ODPEM? The second set of questions goes to Minister Vaz.
Can I attempt to answer the others first?
Oh.
So,
No. Can we just have all of them? Because remember, the ministers have to go to cabinet. So let's take all of them and then we'll give you one set of answers.
Okay, Minister Vaz. You mentioned that JPS is saying 300 additional linesmen would cost $75 million each month. I just did some math. 470 linesmen, $75 million. That's US $159,574 per linesman, $25.5 million. If it's 300 linesmen, that's $250,000 US per lineman, $40 million per month. I want to understand if they had a schedule to come back online in April, May, prior to needing this cash. How is it that if they would have had maybe, I'm just assuming, maybe everything in place in terms of infrastructure needed to come back online for that time, how is it that 300 linemen additional is costing this much money? So just a clarification on that. 2, there is an NWC situation where we've been dependent on JPS power to power water supply, and the Minister of Overseeing NWC recently said that in terms of, to a question of a journalist, the NWC, yes, they're exploring renewable energy in some instances, but there is a concern that if NWC was to be powered by renewable energy completely, it would hurt JPS's bottom line, which would mean higher bills for us as customers. My question is, in the negotiations with JPS in order to renew their license, have you encountered or engaged them in any conversation about getting NWC, factoring NWC as not a customer anymore, and how they could plan for that so that people in disasters can continue to get water regardless of the power situation? And obviously that may have an impact on bills. I want to know if that has been assessed at this point. And lastly, on this $150 million investment that the government of Jamaica is making in JPS's restructuring, I get it, it's an investment in the economy. I just want to know, has there been a factoring done of cost to us as JPS customers in terms of light? How will that affect us? The next batch of questions, Mr. Berbick. Cost of the 2,500 containers, cost of the overall modular units, okay. I think the public calls them containers, but I will say with your language, modular units.
Can we get to the question?
Cost, I asked about the cost of the 2,500, the overall cost to the consumer who is about to purchase this when it comes in. Those were not mentioned, wondering about those figures. And then last batch of questions for you, Minister, is you had mentioned a spreadsheet of all the aid that's been received, and at some point it would be made available. I wanted to get a sense that overall spreadsheet now, because that $540 million that ODPEM had mentioned a couple weeks ago as having been deposited in ODPEM doesn't seem to reflect like the US $22 million that we got from the United States, or we were supposed to get from the United States in aid, because obviously that would be in the billions. And so I'm just wondering if you are going to be giving us the spreadsheet of all the aid that we've received from different aid agencies and also from different governments around the world.
All right. In terms of the aid one, I'll take that one very quickly. Remember that much of the aid that's committed by many of our multilaterals is not cash. It is in kind. And so all of that is recorded by ODPEM. ODPEM has their system of monitoring all of that, and at the appropriate time, ODPEM will share that. So ODPEM, since you're here, I'll let you take the questions on the missing people and some of the aid questions that were there.
So I'll start with the matter of the weekend. We do deliver on weekends. We deliver every day through our system. In terms of the cumulative sums that have been deposited into ODPEM accounts, I had mentioned earlier $1.68 million US and just about 635 million Jamaican dollars, and that's across all accounts. The procurement plan for these accounts is now being developed. We're doing that against the needs list. We're also looking at what persons are contributing otherwise in terms of what's on the ground, in terms of physical assets, and to move those. But we have been able to utilize from some other accounts, primarily the NDF, to treat with initial procurement of food items and water that has gone out. Your question concerning
so let's just clarify. None of the money that has been received has been spent as yet. So we've been using our government funds. Some additional funds were approved by Cabinet for ODPEM to use. Our donors have also provided food and so on. So none of that money has been spent. They're now going to figure out how to spend it.
Concerning the missing persons, I believe. I don't have the figure with me. I can give you at a later time.
He'll give you those info after.
Concerning the missing persons, I believe the same with the matter concerning the persons who are deceased. The police and the families are treating with those names as per their own protocols. So we will not be publishing these names. No.
All right. So let's see. There was a question about the additional linesmen and NWC Water. I think it's really on the linesman, Minister Vaz. Really what it was, they were going to need the money irrespective of whether or not it was fast forwarded. What we've done is to say we need it fast forwarded, and we are giving you the money to fast forward it. But Minister Vaz, you can answer.
So let me clarify. When you say 300 linesmen, the linesmen come with equipment and they come with materials. So when 300 linesmen come to Jamaica to assist the 170, they'll be coming with barges full of equipment, very expensive equipment that has to be rented, to make sure that they would be able to carry out the tasks that they have been mandated to do in the time that they have been made to do. So bottom line is, if you get 300 linesmen, they will need to rotate those linesmen because they would only work those linesmen for 18 hours a day for 30 days. So you'd have to bring in a new set of linesmen for the second 30 days, or you'd be using burnt-out linesmen who are working at the minimum efficiency because, obviously, of the stress of the job that they are doing. So it is not 300 linesmen divided into 150 million US dollars. There's a lot more. What I can say, as I said yesterday in Parliament, once the arrangements have been finalized, it will be scrutinized to make sure that we are getting value for money, and we will also monitor the schedule that has been agreed on in terms of the restoration period and the areas. All of that will be made public, including the final loan arrangement documents and the terms and conditions of that. What we don't have is time. People want light.
All right, we have,
We are giving a loan, and that loan is fully secured with any situation that may arise, whether or not they get a new license or they don't get a new license. If they get a new license, which is 2 years is the expiry, they will be able to refinance themselves and pay us back the $150 million. If they don't, we are obligated to buy the assets of JPS, which means that our $150 million will come off of the table first. The shares will be our backup. In case of any eventuality, we would have preferred shares in JPS. So essentially, we would have control not only of our licensing destiny, which is the most important to me, but also the fact that at the end of the day, the $150 is a loan to the JPS. Instead of them having to borrow from somewhere else or somebody else, which would take a much longer time, probably at a much higher interest rate, we are bridging that gap so that we can restore 2 to 3 months earlier. I just don't understand what's so difficult to understand and comprehend about a straightforward, smart, simple, compassionate, and responsible government action.
All right. All right. In relation to the bills,
The question was asked yesterday in relation to the impact of the hurricane. The 3 alternative energy sources that we use, Clarendon, Old Harbor, and Montego Bay, one was out of commission for 2 days and one was out, and two are out for 3 days. So the impact of the change of fuel source would be minimal in relation to that fallout. And in relation to the loan, the JPS has to borrow money any which way. So this new money that they are borrowing from the government would probably be beneficiary to the customers based on the interest rates that will be negotiated, based on the fact that we are very mindful of the fact that any higher interest rates than normal interest rates would have an impact, obviously, with a pass-through to the customers. So the government and the Ministry of Finance, I'm sure, will take that into consideration and work out the best interest rate possible to minimize any impact on the customers and people of Jamaica.
all right.
Unfortunately for me, I'm not the line minister as yet for NWC, but I think in due course Minister Samuda will be here, and I know that the Prime Minister made mention in one of his speeches about using alternative sources to make sure that in hurricane.
Prime is the moment when you matter most. Chase the mystery. Conquer the uncharted. Surpass the limit. When you are ready to dominate, Anchor Prime is always there to keep you supercharged.
Enjoy the best Anchor deals of the year. This Black Friday only on Amazon.
On the modular units, the teams are here to take your questions. DBJ and NHT and others are here. The UN team is here. So if anybody has any additional questions, you can definitely get them answered.
Thank you, Minister. I'll just quickly point out that we are currently in the procurement process, so we do not have finalized numbers as yet, and that's procurement. We are currently assessing over 40 proposals for the modular units, and we also have to do a procurement exercise for the infrastructure works as well. So the final cost to the customer will include both components. So we do not want to prejudice that exercise at this stage by releasing our estimates that we are working with. Suffice to say, if affordability is a question, the customer would be able to benefit from the NHT's grants and subsidies that are made available in the regular course of acquiring a mortgage.
All right. Thank you very much, Dwayne. I have to leave. I mean, is it one quick one? Okay, sure. I did. On aid. I did. That was the first one I answered.
Who was complaining of the shelter.
Okay.
Sorry, let me just repeat that. Since you answered me, I got communication
Sure.
from the residents in the shelter. It is a content primary school, which I think you mentioned is the one that isn't open yet. And what they said was that they were told to be in a particular part of the school, but that part was damaged. And they're knowing, I think it sounds to me like it's the admin block from what I've heard, and they're being told they have to leave. They're in distress. They have nowhere to go.
Well,
Can you comment on what you would say to the residents because they're asking?
Well, what we have said is that we have to treat everybody as a human being. We have to treat them the way we'd want to be treated. If I were homeless I would want to know that people would be accommodating to me. And we have said that we have to take care of those who are in the shelters. We cannot move them out until we have another facility. And that is what Minister Mackenzie and Minister Charles have been asked to do. Once there is an agreement in terms of where they will go, then they can decommission the school. But we can't decommission a school until those individuals who are there have somewhere to go. And that is the policy of the government, and the ministry will intervene too. The PS is here. She will be intervening with that school just to make sure that that is very much understood.
And that the residents aren't pressured because they feel distressed.
Yeah, and I can understand that would be very distressing, and we don't want to do that because so many people have lost everything. They've lost everything. And we have to be very caring about that. And preserving their dignity is at the center of everything. And so that should never happen. And we are going to ensure that it does not continue. All right, and so this has been a long meeting, and I've been abandoned by all the ministers. But it was very important because I think it does show that there's a lot of work that's happening. Government is more than the ministers. There are many agencies with very capable people who are working really hard to assist those who need the assistance. And so it is coming. Housing is coming. We have small business grants and loans for those who need it. And there are going to be many more announcements that will be made. I make sure that the announcements are real. Cabinet needs to have approved them before they come here because I'm not into the pie in the sky thing. And so I'm very happy that today we had some very concrete things that are on their way for those who've been so devastatingly affected by Hurricane Melissa. And so as we close, as we always do, we continue to pray for all of those who have been affected, and we continue to pray that God will bless this wonderful country we call Jamaica. Thank you all.